We want fairness. And these people are standing in our way. Well, today we're at the picket line with our BT members, Openreach members, who are out on strike again, fighting for decent pay, fighting for a decent standard of living against all of the struggles that working people are having to face at the moment, and against the background that we know that the levels of hypocrisy and greed at the top of the company are just staggering. £1.3 billion profit, 750 million given away to shareholders. The CEO gets a 32% increase, and they impose, not negotiate, 4.8 on average. That is effectively over 2 years, the year before and this year. It's just unacceptable. It's the wrong choices for working people in this country. Obviously, I've been down to the postal workers picket line earlier on today. We had a massive rally there, loads of trade union leaders showing solidarity to our members in BT, Openreach, Royal Mail. And that is a horror story in terms of where, not the picket line, that was fantastic, but the actual what's going on there is the biggest attack, the biggest assault on working people in this country, on a group of workers since the miners' strike. There's no doubt about it. We've got to get this message out there. The company announced this 10,000 job losses last Friday, and the only reason that they can possibly justify that is if we accept their business plan to basically turn Royal Mail into a parcel gig economy company owned by probably people in private equity investment groups outside the UK, destroying more than 10,000 jobs, destroying daily deliveries, the universal service. And it's all because the people at the top of these businesses, they got no ideas, they got no plans for the future. Royal Mail is one of the companies that's probably the strongest overall company that contributes to the UK economy at the moment. And what they want to do is destroy that service. They want a levelling down agenda. They want to get rid of our members. They're not getting rid of all these workers, they're replacing them with workers who are self-employed, on self-employed contracts where they have to take all the burden, including the cost of vans and all that sort of stuff, and they want to bring in new workers on 20% less pay as well. That's the mixture that they're putting in place of the current postings. It's not acceptable, never will be acceptable. I've described it this morning as P&O style attack on steroids. It really is that serious. It's affecting 120,000 people. I hope the public, I hope politicians from all parties realise that we cannot go on in the UK in these times with people leading these companies who are acting in that way. You know, I can't express, both in terms of the CEO at BT, Philip Jansen, who never shows his face, never comes out, and this guy, Simon Thompson at Royal Mail. They're two peas out of the same pod. They're only interested in pacifying shareholders. They don't look after their workers, and they got no idea about how you grow companies.
Can you talk to me about some of the restrictions that the government are hoping to bring in on people in unions? What do you make of them? Well,
I mean, it's the most vicious attack on working people that we've seen, I think, in our lifetime. Especially when you consider the context of the circumstances that it's coming in. And what I make of it is that the militant people, I can't stand this rubbish about working people fighting for their jobs, their pay, their terms and conditions, fighting for that and being described as militants, and these other people describing what they do as modernisers. The real militants here, who we need legislation to protect from, are the people at the top of businesses. They're out of control. They've got no ideas on how you run a company. And genuinely, you know, it's time now to mobilise workers everywhere against these proposals. It's about making working class people ineffective to defend themselves against the biggest attacks that we've ever seen. Not on.
Last night was clusterfuck, if I can say that, with the government at the top, the upper echelons. We're standing here in rainy Brighton this morning. What do you think normal working people make of the government right now?
Well, I think people have made their mind up on the government, don't they? I mean, you see that in every poll, you see it in every conversation that you run into people in your family, even people who in the past may not have been interested in politics. I think they've all realised, I'll tell you what they've realised the truth, which is that there's, the biggest problem we face is there's a structural imbalance of power and wealth in this country, and it runs right throughout every workplace, every job in this country. It runs in the way that the economy will always be rigged against working people, and it runs in all the inequalities that are growing in the country. It is the reason why it's happening, and the Tory party, the people who protect those type of inequalities, to put us down, and we can't have it anymore.
Why don't you think people understand that workers need to go on strike? Why don't you think people understand the gravity that working people are using food banks at the moment?
I think people do understand now. I think there's a different attitude amongst the public towards workers. One of the things that we've got to do, which is why I'm always happy to talk to you guys, is get our arguments across on all forms of media. You mentioned earlier on, I woke up this morning and I was getting ready to go down to the picket line. And just before I left the hotel, I turned the TV on, and I heard them talking about, the Tories in chaos, a load of 30 or 40 Tories all pushing each other or something. And I'm sat there and I was disgusted, because I sat there and I knew that I was going out to speak to our members who are fighting for their jobs, their pay, their terms and conditions, their families, their standard of living. And the media focuses on a load of clowns like that when they should be getting the fair, balanced arguments across. And I'll say this to you, if there's one thing that I cannot express enough how offensive it is that these people keep hiding behind that they're the modernisers and we're the ones that are the anti-growth coalition. We're the ones who are working for the country, for the people, for the services, for the jobs. We want fairness, and these people are standing in our way. So there's only one answer to it. You've got to mobilise working people everywhere.